Hello again, everybody. This is Amorgin, and you're very welcome back to this next community panel discussion where we're looking at the new content, guys. We're discussing the Black Jelly, the ISS Jellyfish. We're looking at the Mirror missions. We're also going to discuss the changes to Armadas and the different events. And we're going to finally take a wee bit of a look at the marketing and community element, the CGI animations that we're getting looks at, and of course the blog, the new community blog, and a few other wee bits and pieces while we're at it. We've got guys from server 28, from server 145, and of course the founder server. So we're going to be joined here by Heck Beyond the Stars, Relentless, Dave, and Big Balls. So sit back, guys, and enjoy this community panel discussion.
It's very hard now for an individual to raid one base. So it's going to encourage and almost force players to play as a team to crack bases, rather than the previous situation where, for example, you could hit a smaller base with a larger ship and quite easily take out its defences. Now you're going to be forced to play as a team and work quite hard to open bases. So it's going to encourage more team play rather than individuals just seeking out bases.
Agree completely, Relentless. Yeah, agree completely. However, I would say play devil's advocate for a moment. One of my subscribers, one of the guys that would make comments the odd time, I think it was Methane. So we shout out to him. Left a comment on my last video saying that it's ruined the opportunity to solo base raid. I think you'd mentioned earlier, Big Balls, about how, for a change of pace, you chose to go the solo route and play solo for a little while. Is it not disenfranchising the guys who want to play a little bit more solo or a little bit more by themselves?
Yeah, I think there's swings and roundabouts with it. Really, there's a lot of positives with this update on the base raiding, and a few hindrances. And you're right, when it comes to the solo base raiding, it's going to be very expensive. You're going to have to choose your targets very well, and you're going to have to get massively lucky to find a base of the right kind of strength and the right kind of level with enough resources to make it worthwhile if you're going to take it on solo. So I guess for the kind of mid-range and lower level raiders, they're a little bit hampered by this. They are going to need, as Relentless just said, they're going to need the team. They're going to need a few big hitters to come along and give them a hand. At the same time, on the plus side, once the base is down, it is a free-for-all. It's no longer do you have a sufficient miner that will get past the residual defense. The base is down, and it's properly down, and is wide open. So that's a positive, and that's a plus. But you're right, it is going to dictate a little bit.
And you guys are all. You guys are all server 145, and it's interesting sometimes to contrast the servers and how things are going. Who's the biggest target, for example, you've seen taken down so far with this new mechanic on your server?
Did you guys take that base the other night on the new mechanics?
Yes, we took down a level 29. We took it down a level 29 God Azura, and he had a Saladin at 700 HP and a Vac, a Kumari, and a North Star. So that was.
And who were your heaviest hitters in that to crack that Relentless? What sort of ships are we talking about?
That was me. That was me. It was my Enterprise, and it took me 1.5 hits, basically.
It took you 1.5 hits with an Enterprise to crack a level 29 base that had a Saladin as its main protector.
It had 4 ships in, yes.
It had 4 ships. It took you 2.5 hits. Beforehand now, what do you estimate that would have been? 1.5?
Yeah.
You reckon it would have been...
It would...
Go ahead.
I would probably, with those ships, it'd probably taken about the same, to be honest.
Okay. Okay, that's coming
I
from
think
the
probably,
perspective like you'd be quite overpowered compared to that player, I'd imagine, Dave. Would that be right?
100%, yeah, 100%, yeah.
Right.
But for me, I don't, I wouldn't throw my enterprise at a base with 3 or 4 million RSS. If I'm going to do that in the philosophy that I follow, that I'll only do it if everyone can profit from it. So to
Right.
speak,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
and I think probably at the highest levels, as Dave is in our server, the update has been relatively kind of coefficient. The base improvement has been cancelled out by the ship improvement at that kind of level, whereas at lower levels, and not much lower than Dave, even in the 31s and 32s, the ship improvement and the base improvement haven't been kind of coefficient. So you are going to still have to throw a lot of ships at it. But when you're talking about a 2 million enterprise, I guess it's a very small, well, certainly in
Right.
our
And
server,
you're
very,
talking
very
about,
small.
you mentioned the ship rebalancing there. That's something I want to move on to now in a wee moment. Any other thoughts just on the new base raiding mechanics, or reflecting what you're hearing or seeing out there?
Yes, I have. If you don't mind, it's just this. What it has done and what it stopped, which in a way some people might say it's wrong, is the ability to just throw a decent level faction miner or even a strong horizon at a base on a whim and take a million RSS and just drive off, if you know what I mean. I think it's whilst
Yeah.
it works in events and stuff, it's not fair. It's not fair
not
to
right.
hit a 20. I could hit a level 24 base with my Antares and fly off with 1.7 million RSS.
Yeah, and if you're on the game,
it's not fair.
And that's from the point of view of somebody.
Rated.
Yeah, that's from the point of view of somebody that has done this and has benefited from this.
Yes, 100%. Yeah,
I think
I've done it.
most
Yeah. I've
players
done it
have
certainly in
done it.
events, in the call to arms events, that sort of thing, where you're desperate to get points, you're desperate for your alliance to win. It's easy, and it makes it easy. And
That's very
it
decent
stopped
of you,
that,
Dave.
and it-
Very, very decent of you there to be thinking of the gays that you've been robbing all this time.
Yeah,
No, I
think
would always PM them afterwards and say, always make sure you leave a ship in, because it stops, people like me doing exactly what's just happened.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's
So let's see, rating still within possibilities, but they just knocked out target, at level 28 hits from Kumari and Avekla to crack a 24. And as a free-to-play, that's really helpful because that was like 600 just gone out the window for like 200 earlier. Like 2 days ago, I went on, did a raid after the patch, and it's a 24 base without any defenses, and took like 6-8 hits from a Kumari and a Vakla to break the base. So I'm gonna say, like, do you remember trying to raid a level 17 back in the day with a Findra or Tala?
Yeah.
Yeah, that took forever, and this is what it feels like now, except the costs are way up. And base rating is a free-to-play. It's not really a possibility to do it every day. You've got to wait a couple days, do a couple of faction dailies, get those PvE dailies done, and then get the repair speed ups, and then you've got one raid. I'm going to say it like this, but it's like Armadas. You've got to save up for it, which that kind of makes it boring. I've talked to some people, they love raiding, and now they're thinking about quitting because, they just lost a fun mechanic that they've always been doing for a while. So, like, I'll give you a picture, Morgan, but it was being one-shot by a Saladin with all 3 ships home. Now, that was before the buff, but after the buff, that thing would have probably only gotten 1 ship, which, I mean, they made it a bit too hard in my opinion, because now the 4-star ships, they're going to be the 3-star ships back in the day. They're just going to start one-shotting all these people with 3-star. But ships like the Saladin, they should be able to at least get through, like, if I have all my ships docked, I should be able to get 2 or 3 killed. And, like, 3 hits is reasonable, is what I'd say.
The ship rebalancing then, guys, you're all very happy with that, I take it?
I love the rebalance for the ships. That was great. Good job to Scopely for that one. They just made the auger more relevant. I haven't heard that much about the D4, but I'm told it has improved a bit. They've just a lot of the ships. I get stuck on certain missions, and now I can do them, which is great because I love doing the missions. Though of course I can't do the warp ranges, which buff the warp range a bit, but that's a different thing. Let's see. Just doing PvE dailies as well, faction grinding. I've been able to kill 33s now with my Kamari, which I wouldn't have been able to do beforehand. It's tier 6 at like before buff, like 270k, 60k.
Yeah.
I think it's got pluses and minuses. I think there's certain ships that have been skipped in the rebalance, but yes, in the main, it's made a big difference for the lower faction ships.
It's very much. Sorry, very much like.
For example, as we discussed, the Enterprise has definitely suffered in the rebalance because it's no longer. Although it's obviously had a big boost, it's obviously a wee bit sitting behind compared to their new jelly now. Whether that's just a decision at the moment to allow the jelly to be stronger for a little while, I'm not too sure, but I don't think it is actually balanced now because, like I said, there are ships that seem to have been skipped almost with the Burrell and the Enterprise are the two that kind of stick in my mind that don't seem to have had the massive boost that I expected, to be fair.
I'm not sure I agree with that with the Enterprise, to be honest. I think it wasn't good enough before. I mean, for instance, but I think that's more dependent on how strong the Sally was, which didn't, in some respects, make sense. In that a Sally with Harrison could take down a 1 million Enterprise, which doesn't make sense in terms of the battle triangle at all whatsoever. And that bit's been removed, and at the same time, the Enterprise, the attack stats on the Enterprise, for instance, have literally doubled, which does make it a hell of a lot better. And as the flagship of the game, it should be better than every other ship. And what frustrates me a little bit is the fact they brought this jelly in that's now just got more or less 1.9 million. In terms of the rebalancing of the current ships, even the Mayflower. I mean, I think the Mayflower is now good for what if it's used in the right way, i.e., if you want to spank some hostile Klingons, I think it's very good. It's still not good enough PvP, but is that what it's for? As a low-level explorer, I'm not sure.
Yeah, and I think the D3 got a little bit of a skip on it as well, and as you said, the Sally was kind of way overpowered, and the D3 didn't get much. I think I have a D3, and I think most of the power boost that it got came from the officer boost, as opposed to the ship boost. But it's very much like what was done to the likes of the Kamari and the Vaklis and the Kira when they were out. When they first came out, the Kamari was useless. Particularly having played with the Tala for a long time and that being the main ship, you were looking forward to upgrading to the next battleship, and the Kamari was very poor.
Did any of you guys have the Kamari that time? Any of you guys have the Kamari that time that it was really, in terms of strength, was really, really overpowered? Like it was like there was a bug when they tried to rebalance it, and it was just crazy for like a couple of days.
Yeah.
You remember that?
They did exactly. They did a similar thing, didn't they? They did a ship boost, ship realignment, if you like, and yeah, they seemed to overpower the Kamari. I think my Kamari at the time nearly tripled in power, and then it dropped down after a couple of days. But
yeah, it didn't actually translate in reality strength.
No, yeah.
It was still only doing what it was expected to do, but like the stats
but
on
the
it seemed to be unreal.
Yeah. But I guess my point is that they've done this before. They've realigned the ships previously, or they've had to realign the ships previously. And I guess there's a little bit of the cynic in me that's wondering, well, they've basically had to correct the same problem again. Why is that? What's good? Is there a fundamental issue with it, with the kind of ship stats that they then have to relook at when we get to the next tier and you get the sort of the G3?
Yeah, personally, I think we're looking.
G4, is that going to be another issue?
Yeah, I think we're looking at the beginning of a real boost to and really a drop down in terms of the cost of getting now to Centurions and Burrells and these kind of ships. I think it's we're progressively going to see these things getting easier to obtain now. We had predicted this before anyway. I suppose it's the way it goes.
One of the other things that I've noticed, and I'm wondering, is it deliberate? Is what's going on? Is the repair costs in terms of resources seems to have increased?
There's a bug with that as well. I've noticed that. If any of you noticed a bug there, I noticed that I didn't have enough to repair a ship earlier on, and the real repair cost, I think for my Centurion, it was like 143k titanium displayed, but it actually cost 153k.
Right.
So that's all still a bit of a mess. Like there's still a lot of bugs in the game, but like we'll keep it on topic for a moment.
Well,
I'm happy with the Centurion. I'm happy with the boost that Centurion got.
You got a decent one.
Yes,
the Bortus as well.
Big step up.
Yeah, my Bortus and Legionary were my two battleships that were around the same strength. Both of them got their boost, and now the Bortus is stronger than the Legionary. So I'm kind of happy with that because it should be. Right, Dave. Now's your chance for the ISS Jellyfish. Throw out your thoughts on that. You're aiming to get one, or you have one. What's the story?
I'm in the event. I didn't want to enter the event. I didn't want it in the way that I think it's ridiculous that you can throw everything into getting the flagship, i.e. the Enterprise. You put everything you've got into it for them then to say, oh, here's a ship, by the way, all you've got to do is enter this event. You get all the full BPs. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not stupid enough to think that it's going to be free, because it's not. Because for me, at level 36, I've still got to get to shipyard level 39, and that's a long way, and that's a lot of money in real terms to get to that point. But the fact is, they've brought out a ship that's better than the ship that was for so long everyone considers to be the best ship in the game. But now you can buy this ship that's at base level better, which I think is absolutely barking mad. But what people aren't seeing is the fact that it's going to need G4 resources to upgrade. Now, a lot of people, certainly, well, not a lot of people in our server, but some people in our server are trying their hardest to push to 39 by throwing money at it, ignoring the ships that they haven't touched since they were level 32, 33. So it's all well and good being able to build this ship, but to be able to even get anywhere near getting these G4 materials, i.e., I think the nearest one is level 72 warp. That's again, that's a lot of upgrading to do with a faction miner just to be able to get to a system to be able to find this stuff, let alone mine it.
So people are essentially purchasing their way to the ISS Jellyfish, the Black Jelly as it's been known in development. The Black Jelly, it's a status ship. There's no question about it. It's aimed at the people, the Wallet Warriors. Are the Wallet Warriors coming out now simply to get this for the status and to be able to trot around the galaxy saying, "Look at me and look at what I've got"?
I think they're doing it for kudos, but at the same time, I'd like to see what would happen ship to ship. The jelly versus an actual ship that's been upgraded and brought to that level anyway. We're not going to see that in our server because I'm not going to get to anywhere near 39 anytime in the next.
One of the ships we didn't mention in the rebalancing, and I'd love to get a view from somebody who's actually gone and tested this, is the Augur. A fully upgraded Augur. You'd imagine would give any of these ISS Jellyfishes the Black Jelly a run for its money.
Yeah, you'd hope so completely. I mean, in our server, there's 2 enterprises. That's it. And the second one, the other guy's one, that was only very recently. So there is no more epic ships as such.
Now, just to be clear about this as well, I suppose for those people that are watching that maybe haven't researched it too much, the event you're talking about to obtain this is limited to very high levels. Am I correct?
Right. So when you get to Ops 36, you get a gift. You get a gift in your normal daily gift part, which gives you a jelly token, so to speak. And as soon as you take that token, you're entered into an event, and you're entered into an event against other people of your level. If you win that event, you get 120 blueprints, which means when you get to shipyard level 39, you can build that ship. Now, to get those, to get the points towards the event, you have to spend your G3 resources. You have to get epic officer shards, and you have to get crossover tokens. So I'm fortunate today. Yesterday I lost out. Today it's only me. So it's only me at that level that is in the event. So I've done enough to get on the board. Hopefully by the end of the event, nobody else would have got to Ops 35 and then entered the event, and it won't cost me any more resources to go any further, or to need to go any further in the event, and I'll win it and I'll get 120 BPs. Yesterday was a bit different.
But even after getting that, you now have to get yourself to level 39.
You have to get to level 39, and then you have to get, more importantly, ship level 39, which is always going to be one of the last upgrades you do. So yeah, it's a long way down the road for myself. I mean, we've got a guy in our alliance who's level 38 and has been. Don't get me wrong, he's a notoriously big spender. He's been at level 38 for at least a month, 2 months now, and he's buying 2 packs a day, and he's still not got to level 39. That's the sheer level of expense it's going to take to get to level 39. So it's by no means a free ship. Don't get me wrong, but what annoys me is the fact that to get the Enterprise, it costs a certain amount, but then they're throwing these BPs out for anyone who's already at level 39. You can get the ship for free.
So a lot of this is largely going to be irrelevant for the average viewer. The average person listening to this can only dream about getting up to this level. So interesting stuff, Dave. Maybe you'll send me a few screenshots of that, of your event board and all of that kind of stuff, and I can throw it in. Yep. What about the other missions, the mission storylines that we've seen, and how that's been done?
Well, it was nice to have a little bit of content to follow through, wasn't it? And I mean, obviously the kind of paywall aspect of it raises a little bit of controversy that you kind of had to drop a little bit of coin to access it. But it was nice to have a storyline to follow through. One of the things was, it's one of the, you don't want to always seem like you're complaining, but the fact was that the mission itself lacked a bit of challenge, really. It was a bit of time spent on the game, but the ships you were running up against tended to be very low level and not very challenging for me. I felt it was more just a right. Let's just get through this to get the crossover tokens that were available to it. And I've left one of the missions undone, to be honest, because I got the event completed by completing two of the missions.
Right, and I want to come in a wee moment as well to the way that they do this event store by obtaining the crossover tokens and what we think about that. But I suppose something that I noticed, and we talked very briefly about this earlier, is you were saying how there was no challenge in these missions that we're doing. The mirror missions in particular is what we're talking about, the mirror storyline. There's also the broken mirror storyline. If anybody wants to illustrate the difference in that after I bring this point up, then please feel free, because some people won't be doing the broken mirror storyline because they'll only be the free to play will only be doing the mirror, right?
Mirror,
So if anybody has done the broken mirror, please elaborate on that. But I wanted to raise the fact that the lack of a challenge, and again, you mentioned there, Dave, a little while ago about the Enterprise being the flagship, the strongest ship in the game, all of that. The Black Jelly has come in, and we're looking at the ISS Enterprise, which you would imagine is going to be an uber overpowered ship as well. You'd imagine the ISS Enterprise coming into our dimension, our universe, would at least be like 4 million in strength or something like that. But we were looking at ISS Enterprises at under 2,000 in strength.
Yeah.
What do you make of that?
Well, it just seemed to be a kind of lazy design to simply make the mission completable, and it was just race through the mission. There was nothing to do but kind of read the storyline and kill a nominal ship that you could have completed the mission with the old Tala and or something like that. It wasn't really adding a lot in terms of content for me.
And over pretty quickly.
A storyline to follow. Yeah, a storyline to follow.
Quickly, yeah. And I found when I had done it, right, that it was over a lot quicker. I was glad that the little yellow icons were not halfway across the galaxy, right? I'm waiting 15 minutes for another 5-second piece of the story, right? I was glad about that. But I was surprised at how quickly it was over. And I found myself sitting there going, right, well, really, other than the ability to get more crossover tokens, which then I'll spend in the event store, right? Other than that incentive, there's actually no incentive for me to spend 20 quid or whatever it is to now go and do Broken Mirror. 20 quid for another 5-minute piece of text, am I missing much?
Well, I think that's my point, really, is that the only purpose to it was to get the tokens and just have a little bit of something to do in the game. It didn't
would it not have been easier just to put up a 20 quid pack with a bunch of tokens in it?
Yeah, well, but the thing is, though, it did highlight for me one of the things I think is fundamentally wrong, and it got changed. I'm absolutely sure it got changed. Scopely denied the customer support when I've raised it have denied this, but I'm convinced that when it comes to the likes of these ships, these hostile ships, I noticed it with the kind of hostile captains, the combat mission captains that you get. Once upon a time, you could fire 3 or 4 ships at these and take them down. You could fire a couple of ships at it, take down the shield, and then hit it with your powerful ship and destroy it. And you could wear it down with your fleet. And they changed it so that after every hit, it regenerated. Full shields, full hull for every ship. So now you need one ship that can take down these hostile captains and these hostiles. And I think that's a terrible idea. At the end of the day, if I've built up a fleet of 4 ships, then I should be able to use those 4 ships to wear down a higher level target and take it down. And because they've done that, I think when it comes to these missions, they then have to make a hostile that you can take down with one ship. And they have to, when they make these missions for the whole server and for all players, they have to set it at a certain level where they can think, right, well, whatever level you're at, you're going to be able to take this down. Whereas if they changed that dynamic, if they allowed a kind of collective hit, a sort of solo armada on these hostile targets, then you could wear them down. And okay, maybe one of your main ship is 500k, but you've got a 300k and a 250k and maybe another 200k. And so you can use those 4 or 3, and you can take down a bigger target in that kind of style attack, one after the other. And because they've taken that away, they've got to limit the power of the ships you're hitting. Whereas if they added that, or if they put it back, as I say, I'm sure it was like that originally, then they could put in a few hostiles in the missions where you're going to have to collect your ships and go at it with a few and just have that challenge element to it, you know.
I would love to see a little bit more of a challenge in the sense of maybe some mini games or something. Now, I know they can't go and redesign the game and allow us to manually control our ships and use a certain amount of tactics and stuff like that, but it would be nice to have some little bit more entertaining, like where, I don't know, you play Vulcan chess with with the opponent to beat them. You know what I mean? Or something a little bit out there and a little bit more engaging, where I'm going like, yeah, I want to do that again. I want to give that another go.
I think a mini game would be an excellent add-on, to be honest, because at the moment, like you said, the content's excellent, and I actually quite enjoyed the storyboard. The one thing that I was kind of quite optimistic about is the fact that they brought the Kirk and Spock relationship into it, and you got a storyboard more or less round about them. But there isn't really, after you've done them. I bought the pack and you're doing the same mission 5 times just to reap the rewards, which is a wee bit of uncommons in your boosters, and it makes you feel a wee bit robbed with the pack. You felt that, you know, if you were going to buy it, it would be a wee bit alternate. You know, the story would continue on, but you literally do the same story 3 or 4 times in a row, which is a wee bit of disappointment, to be honest. I thought a mini game or something inside it that would have drawn your attention for a wee bit longer would have been far better, to be honest with you.
It's an absolutely brilliant idea, that, because you jump on the game and your miners are out, and you got no missions to complete. Your events are kind of all taken care of or whatever, and you're kind of at a loss of what to do. So you know, if there was a little.
Like, imagine it, like it wouldn't be
on the side of that.
It wouldn't be that difficult or that demanding, you'd imagine, to have your old Space Invaders type game, right? Or something along them lines, where a repeatable mission that you don't have to pay for. A set of repeatable missions that you don't have to pay for, that while you're idling or waiting on that miner or waiting for the ship while it's got 10 minutes to travel or whatever it is, that you're able to go and repeat this mission, and it's your little old Space Invaders style mini game, where maybe for winning it or getting to a certain level you'll actually get something useful inside the game, like a bit of titanium or, you know, a few officer shards or something, you know.
Well, the great thing about the idea is that you know, the imagination's the limit. You know, you could take that in so many directions. You could have any number of kind of games. You could have rewards attached to it.
You see, maybe old farts like us just have a hankering for old 8-bit and 16-bit games, you know.
Yeah.
Possibly, yes.
Yeah, I mean, there's a danger we end up kind of creating lots of games within a game, you know, and you get to the point where you're thinking, yeah, well, you can challenge another board player to a game of Scrabble or something, you know. And,
not a bad idea.
Yeah. But yeah, there's something there, I think, in terms of
What
potential.
what about how to do the event store, guys? Do we like it? The idea that you're not buying your crossover tokens in this case for $20 pack or something, that you're being led into it. There's a bit of a carrot being dangled in front of you, and and there is a free to play way of getting these crossover tokens, but if you really want to get a lot of these crossover tokens, you have to follow the content, right? But as soon as you've accrued these crossover content, then there's a whole plethora of options in terms of what you can buy. And your needs are different to my needs. So, for example, even though people would tell me I'm mad, I've bought some Power Steel tokens with those crossover tokens, and I know people are going to say that's crazy, right? But that's where my need is at the moment. You know what I'm saying. None of the other officers are attracting me that much. Severus, now I've spent a few of them crossover tokens on Severus, but the blueprints for Abortus, I don't need them. Or a Centurion or a Saladin, I don't need them. I have them ships and I have them upgraded a little bit, so that'll be a priority for somebody else.
Yeah, I needed the Abortus BPs. That's what I've spent mine on. But again, I always find the same kind of complaint, really, or same kind of issue with these. It's the sheer values they place on them. You're buying a shard, and it's 2.5K tokens for one shard, and you need another 45 shards, and you just, for me, I just think,
Yeah,
what's
I'd
the
rather
point,
just farm them in the level 31 systems, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
I felt that the capping of the AUG ships was a wee bit unfair as well, because I've got quite a few of the AUG BPS that I played quite hard for, and I've played hard again, and I'm desperately trying to get my hands on the hijacked D3, and yet it's capped at 40, which leaves me 10 short. So even if I do manage to play through all the events and collect all the tokens and invest everything in getting the D3 parts, I'm still going to be sitting there with 90 out of, or is it 70 out of 80? I think it's 70 out of 80 BPS. So I don't understand why they would put the 40 cap on it. I think it should just be, if you're prepared to keep playing events and keep playing on and really work hard for it, play hard for it, sorry, you should be able to actually achieve it. But you can't, because they've capped it at 40 again. I think that's a little unfair. But the other sides of the event store have been excellent. You can get your uncommons, you can get your officer shards, you can get, like you said, whatever your needs are, you can go in and get, and that's been excellent. But I don't really understand why they would cap the number. And if you do, for example, I would have bought another pack to try and get the other 10 BPS from my D3, because I'm desperately trying to get that ship. But I feel it's you just put it a wee bit out of reach. There would be no. I can't see why they have to cap how many you can get. To be honest, I think you should be able to achieve the ship.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point. I mean, and talking about need, I need rare, and they're not available in the store, and I think that's wrong. To say, well, you can have the uncommon, but your rare are still unachievable. So I could have done with being able to access some rare resources, and that wasn't.
I'd agree
available.
with that. I need a bit of rare gas myself if I want to upgrade the Centurion any further. I'm a fair bit off it. Some rare gas would have tempted me there now. Yeah.
Well, each my D3, each gun requires 90 rare crystal, and I've one gun left. I'm down to 10. I've got 80 out of 90 for the last one, and getting those last 10 has been a nightmare. So yeah, it would have been nice to purchase 3 or 4 in the event, and get a little bit closer to that. But yeah, and another one. It does seem to be the Scopely way, just to keep things just out of reach, and just keep you striving, which is very frustrating. You know, a game should be fun, and not just frustrating. It should have its frustrating moments when you're impatient, and that's on you. But when the game itself becomes unfair and unreasonable, then it does become an issue, really. And I think there's a lot of bottlenecks, deliberate bottlenecks that just sap a little bit of the enjoyment. Well, not a little bit. They can sap a lot of enjoyment out of it when they go a little bit too far with it, and make it forever difficult to achieve.
I think the opportunity to purchase the G3 stuff is good, but again, to get the sort of levels of crossover tokens to get anything decent and worthwhile, you probably have to have bought the mirror pack in the store, in the actual store to begin with. Which, you know, it's, if you've got to do it for a reason, fair enough. But if you're dropping that sort of money just to open the broken mirror mission, which there isn't an awful lot more content than there was in the original one, and all you're doing is going from one system to another system just to kill a ship that's supposed to be fantastic. That's 1,678 strength. I think it was all a bit pointless, and it was just a runaround for everyone. And let's be honest, because it was new, everyone was trying to do it, and the whole system was just jam packed, and it makes the game naturally slower because there's so many people in that. It's just, I don't know. It was just. I think
that's a great description of it. There, it was just a runaround for everyone.
Yeah.
I think in the end, that's what it was. Well said.
And you didn't really gain anything from it, to be fair.
Well, you got the tokens, didn't you? And you could use them for certain things, but even that we've just said wasn't quite as it might have been, and with the limits that Rel's mentioned. Again, there's just a sense of an unfairness to it. You know, you can play hard, you can buy the pack, you can do the run around, and you still end up short.
I was more in doing other missions, which were going to come out eventually, but I was told that the missions, if you pay to repeat them, they get better rewards. I mean, paid for it, so.
Can any of you guys confirm that?
I can't. No, I just purchased the one.
I was told that, but I haven't seen it say anything about it, so I'm just going off that. But I mean, that would seem very reasonable because, you know, reward the people who spend, but still make it reasonable for everyone else. Because,
well, if anybody has experienced that, or anybody has thoughts on that, then I suppose they can leave their comments below, or come and join us on Discord and let us know. Okay, guys, I want to move it on to the Epic Armadas and the events related to Armadas. Have we any thoughts on that?
Epic, and I don't know anyone on our server who's actually been able to open one yet. Me personally, I'm still probably 100 directives away from even opening one, so we haven't seen any benefits from it yet. The rares, you have to pay to start them, which, you know, it's that's the game, I suppose. But the epics, I can't comment on it because I haven't been able to do one yet, and I'm sure that's the same for everyone, really, to be honest.
Have you had epics?
Armadas has been.
Sorry, have you had epics on your server, Amorgin?
Oh yeah, there's been a couple happened. All right. I'm a long way away from doing epics now. I have a few of the epic directives from doing rares and opening the rare the rare packs in the Alliance store. But it's like 15 or something I've got, and you need 500, and this kind of hike in costs as it gets more difficult, I think, is a bit of a disgrace, to be honest with you. It was bad enough doubling the cost to do a rare when they're so difficult to come by. I think it's disgraceful that they're more than doubled again for an epic. It puts it so far out of reach. However, there are those who are able to do enough high level Armada. The higher player can do a high level Armada and therefore get increased rewards, and therefore able to open the uncommon chests more often, which allows them to get the rare directives and so on. So there are people who are able to do that and grind that a little bit more, and get those things at a faster rate. So there's been a few that have done the epics all right. There's plenty of them popping up around the place, but it's not a common thing. You know, it's.
Do we know of anyone who's actually got going back to the rares and the rare store? Do we know of anyone who's actually got the full ship BPs from one of those chests? Because I find that, I mean, when it was due, when it was, you know, a couple of weeks ago when they first brought the rares out, everyone was throwing stuff at it to get them, and at first you were dropping. I dropped 5 D4 BPs straight away, and on the next one I opened, I got 5 Augur BPs as well. But since then, every time I open one now, all you're getting is I'm not even getting rares. I'm just getting 15 more directives.
Like the drug dealers, you know, is like
we'll
make the first one free, and when you want some more, come back to me, you know.
and I've heard rumours of 1 or 2 being dropped, but then I think, is that actually true, or are people just saying that? You know?
Yeah, some people are saying it, but it's going to be very hard to prove it unless somebody's actually recorded it or something, you know. And I'll be sure to try and do that. I'll be kicking myself if I miss it and it happens, you know. But it's a little bit like the officer things as well. You can get if you open multiple chests, you'll be able to get on occasion you'll be able to get like a greater amount of officer shards if you open a greater number of chests in one go. I've seen that happen.
They haven't proved that actually, because
I've seen it happen. I can confirm it.
I've opened an ultra pack the other day. Opened 5 chests, and when I got 101 Nero shards. And it actually gave me a little
animation,
a little separate animation on it to highlight the fact that I'd got that.
They announced that because when I got it, I found myself looking at an officer. I think it was Charvanek maybe or something like that. It was one of them officers. I was like, I'm sure I didn't have enough shards for this officer. How have I got this officer? And then I realized that must be what it was. And recently I got like 17 or 18, I don't know who it was like T'Pring maybe or something, so shards just in one go, and I got the little animation for her, but it wasn't a lot, but it was, you know, 15, 20 shards maybe.
Well, I got 101. I took a screenshot of it actually because it was new, got 101 Nero, and it made a big deal about it.
Send that screenshot on to me, will you?
I will do, and it flagged it up to me, which was good, which was nice, because as you said, you used to often miss it and not really notice that you dropped that, especially if you kind of skip the animations and just open them, and then look at it at the end. You don't always pick up on it, perhaps, but it was nice. It was a nice little addition to sort of flag up a decent drop from the chest, but yeah, we were talking, going back to the Armadas. We were talking earlier just amongst ourselves about the kind of missing PvP element to the Armadas, and the potential there to kind of have a little scrap over the Armadas, and at the minute I think that's taken out of the game. There's no real potential for that, because it costs so much in terms of directives, and the directives are so hard to come by that, you know, it's one of those mutually assured destruction situations where if you disrupt one, then yours are going to get disrupted, and what's the point, blah blah blah. But if directives were, even if they just made the uncommon directives much more easy to come by, then you might introduce a little bit of the kind of PvP scrapping over the Armadas, because you wouldn't be so precious about the directives, whereas right now someone disrupts an armada, that's an act of war, really, and it's very much frowned upon and discouraged.
I think that's definitely the case for the rare armadas, because as you said, it costs money. It costs you money to start that armadas. I mean, the common ones, sometimes you can interrupt them out of boredom, really, or somebody started one without realizing that somebody else has already started one. So everyone goes, do you know what? Let's defend this. Let's do it, because we've got nothing else to do right now. And if I think the idea of it was aimed towards building that rivalry, because I think there's a 20-second lag between an alliance starting the armada and then it's showing up next to the armada. So there's 20 seconds between where another alliance can start the armada, because that's how most of the battles happen, really. Because when you look at it, you start it and there's nobody there. But then when it's actually when the countdown runs, you see, oh, hang on a minute, there's another alliance started it. So you either make a decision there or then whether to just let it run out and let the other alliance take it and lose your directives, or you think, do you know what, let's battle for this. And 9 times out of 10, you'll just leave it and someone loses the directives. But at other times, you think, do you know what, just for a bit of fun, let's get involved.
See, this is where they're missing a trick. This is where they're missing a trick with it, because if they made an armada situation where you've got, whether say it's a 20-second lag or a minute or whatever it is, when an armada gets announced, if another alliance can spot it and interject within a certain time frame, 20 seconds, a minute, whatever it might be, and you have to make that call as to whether you're going to defend it or fight for it or whatever it is. If the rewards in such a situation, then again with an event or something, right? If the rewards were huge for winning that, people would throw insane amount of resources at it if it was worth it. And there's going to be a loser. So there will always be those lunatics in an alliance who will spend on packs to make sure that they're going to try to win. And it's that mutually assured destruction thing you're talking about, where it's also mutually assured spending,
Yeah. No, you're right. There's an element there to be added in terms of just a little bit of territorial strife to claim that armada and to see it out. And that right now, because the directives are so hard to come by and so precious as a result, there's a lot of preciousness around it, and you can't do this, and if you do that, no, that's war, and you're disrupting this, and now we're going to disrupt all yours. But if the directives were more easily accessible, even just as I said, if they made it for one type of armada, the uncommon, where you had one daily, where everyone in the alliance could earn enough to run one armada. So you could potentially have 50 or 60 armadas in a day. Well, that's fine, because you're going to start one, and there's no guarantee that's going to be completed. There's every likelihood another alliance is going to come and take you on and disrupt it. So you're going to have to start it again, or you're going to have to scrap it out, and have that kind of gameplay and that content. That I think ultimately all the discussions kind of come back to, we're just desperate for a bit of content and a little bit of gameplay within the game that we enjoy so much.
Yeah, and that doesn't fizzle out after a day or two of chaos.
Our alliance did one, and I wasn't around for it, but they had to play it safe because they were just, they were not willing to risk that at all. That's just how hard it is. They went and chose a 27 over 30 and had a bunch of high mid-level 30s that, because they weren't sure if they were going to kill that 30. So you can tell they were very protective of that one armada. But honestly, I was thinking about it a bit, but what if they put directives into the usual 6 hour events that lapse, like the ship events, the officer events? I mean, that would be a good way to get people get
That
to
could work. And
like
one of the guys there suggested if it was included in your dailies, if everybody in your alliance had a daily that they could complete, that would give them some directives.
yeah, just make it more accessible. Also, I would say add some rare directives to that one Armada directive pack in the Alliance store. Add like
Yeah.
50 rare directives, because
Yeah,
I'm
and
not even bothering to
another
buy that.
another way to make it accessible, and then, develop that teamwork ethic that seems to be attached to the Armadas is, if it didn't require one player to have the 100 uncommon, or one player to have the 200 rare and 500 epic, if you could pool those resources. So if I can start an Armada, but I've only got 50, but someone else from the Alliance could also select the Armada and start it, and add their 20, and somebody else can add whatever, and you could build it up
Great idea.
as an alliance.
Great idea.
You know,
It would mean
then
fixing the ability to lock in who's in the alliance. So if I donated 50 credits to you, or 50 directives to you,
yeah,
you started the Armada, you'd need to be able to lock me in, like.
yeah, exactly. If you've contributed, if you've started it, then you're in.
Yeah, so if four of us want to form an Armada and we've got the price of one between us, like it's like going down to the off license when you were 16.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Everybody needs to
Absolutely,
get a drink out of that bottle, like.
What have you got? Fetch into the pockets and see what's there. But yeah, they could add that element to it, and then with the epics of 500, then it doesn't mean you've got to wait till you've got 500, because that's going to be a long wait for a lot of us. If you could pull that and perform an alliance Armada, and again, I don't even know why they've added this 3 or 4 or 5 slots. You make the target a certain value, and you make the reward a certain value, and then it just gets divided out amongst however many join, and then it's up to alliances and players to say, listen, we're only going to have 10 in this. There's no point having more than 10, because you don't get any reward for it, really. So,
well, that's a whole video in itself that I think Thaler was pushing at for a wee while, is a number of fixes to Armada. So maybe we'll park that just for the time being, because we've been at this for about an hour now. And I want to get it wrapped up very shortly.
Well, the only point I just want to add in what Hector said there, and another thing they could do, or another thing that should have been done perhaps, is with this buff, the power buff was very much just limited to the power. Great point is about the fact that warp ranges weren't increased with it. So now you end up with Kamaris of kind of 400k that still can't go beyond a kind of 28 warp range or whatever. That should have been buffed too, to allow the kind of expanded gameplay that would come from having ships that can reach a bit further. For me, that would have been a very welcome addition.
Final things I've got there, guys, and if I've missed anything, feel free to shout, is there's been a few kind of sentiments expressed, I suppose, around the CGI videos, the fancy imagery, the advertising and the marketing end of it that is being heavily bombarded out there at the minute. There's a lot of effort gone into that. There's a new blog as well. If we look at the community section of that and we go into that, you're looking at the Scopely page, and they've got like this terms of and conditions related to if you're engaging with that community and all of that. and the only thing that's in it is this Spock, I am Spock kind of blog thing, which is nice, but I don't see much. I know it's early days, but I don't see much community. I don't see, like, they've launched this thing and there's nothing in it,
Yeah.
And it's all about this fancy imagery and look at this. Like, if it were me looking at them couple of 30-second clips of the ISS Jellyfish or the Mirror Universe or whatever it is, they've done a few others before as well, I'd be very excited about this game, but very disappointed when I get into it,
It's false advertising. It really is, because there's a lot of these games and a lot of these adverts you see on TV where it will say in big letters at the bottom, gameplay not represented, but you don't generally see that on these scupply things. But we all fall for it though.
Do we like it?
It's very poorly I like it, but I think it's been very poorly delivered, and I don't see it. Like you said, I don't see anything community-wise about it. It's an advertising gimmick. It's not. It's definitely not there for players. I just think it's been very poorly delivered, to be honest with you. It should be a wee bit more honest in what they're trying to get across. But it's nice to see that they're trying to push something, but it's a bit bewildering what they're trying to push, to be honest with you. And the videos that they put out are very cool, and CGI and things.
Can
like
you
that,
imagine,
really
for example, can you imagine if you're really into the whole idea of the mirror universe? Like, I remember the original series episode, which was like an iconic episode of the Mirror episode, right? And it was brought back then in Discovery, with the whole mirror universe stuff, and it was brought to a whole new generation, and it's not just the Kelvin timeline now we're attracting people from. We will be attracting people from the Discovery sort of fan base because of the mirror universe and all of that. And it's a common thing now throughout all of Star Trek canon, I suppose, that this mirror universe exists. If that was the hook, right? This advertising campaign with this CGI and everything, that's the hook, right? So I've downloaded this game, and then I find out, like, you have to be level 39 before you can get this ship. You have to be this level before, and like, can you imagine starting the game now with that being the thing that attracted you? I think you mentioned earlier, Dave, about the Enterprise being the most iconic ship, that it's the flagship, right? So you can understand people being attracted into the game, because it's like, how hard is it going to be for me to get an Enterprise? And that's very far away for somebody. This ISS Jellyfish, this black jelly, it's just ridiculous when it comes to that.
Yeah, very much. I thought of, when I watched it, I thought of what you'd pointed out in a conversation we had previously about how the game had kind of dropped down the rankings in terms of kind of Play Store and things like that. They were ninth, and I thought, well, this is directly related to that. Surely this is a big effort to kind of raise the profile once more of this game and bump it up there, and was very much a lot of window dressing. A huge amount of window dressing to make it seem like a certain thing when the reality was very different. And I felt there's probably a link between how the game's performing in terms of the kind of Play Store downloads, popularity, and a little bit of an attempt to give it a bit of a boost in the arm by creating this kind of excitement around the game by presenting it in a certain way that's not necessarily related to the reality of the game.
I think also they keep pushing community, but again, we're back to this situation where they're not really doing very, very much community kind of work, because, as we've said before, although their Discord channel is very comprehensive. It lacks in so many different community kind of minded ways. You can't speak to an admin. You can't. Even when we had the server errors just other week there, you're in a kind of blind situation where there's nobody to talk to, and you're messaging people, and it's not really getting processed. Nobody's really paying attention to the community and saying, right, okay, guys, we're on this and we're doing something. I mean, I was one of the ones that sent a message, and I get told, oh, well, it's not really, we know it's happening, but it's not really what I do, so there's not really any comment I can make about it, and that's fair enough. But there should be somebody there that's there to answer the community and speak to the community. And Panic, again, is doing an excellent job, but it's still very limited. It's not, if they're going to push community, which is great, I'd love the community to be a lot stronger and a lot better, but they're not really giving us any tools to do that.
Well, I'll come back. I'll come back on that in a wee second, Relentless. I think Dave has to leave. Is he gone yet? You're heading away, Dave?
Yes, I've got to go.
Okay. Have you any final thoughts there before you leave us? I just want to get you in before we finish up.
No, I think we've covered everything. To be honest, I find the game compelling, but very frustrating for so many reasons. But that's why we keep playing it.
That's it.
There's so many things that can be improved, but yeah, that's about it.
All right. Well, I want to thank you for joining us. Feel free to pop back in, and we'll have a chat again at a future stage.
Will do, definitely. Thanks very much. Thanks all.
Good night, Dave.
Good night, Dave.
Good night, Dave.
Take care.
I can see how they try sometimes, but it is tokenism a lot of the time, This whole launch of a blog and stuff like this, and having a community section to it and whatever, and like the first thing you see is a warning, about you don't abuse this or else, and it's like, that's going to put people off from coming in and being creative. Like, we look at all of these creators, look at Extraordinary and the funny stuff that he does. He animates wee videos. There's guys out there doing logs of and blogs of like funny storylines and that, There are a lot of creative and clever people out there doing some form of content. I remember one of the guys, can't remember his name now, he made music based on the game and his alliance. He'd done a song for his alliance, and it was really good music, Rooster Cogburn, that was him. Rooster Cogburn done puppies with laser cannons and things like that, and it was really good quality music, So there's a lot of creative people out there. I just don't see it being encouraged. I see it being tokenism,
Yeah.
It
really is a shame.
I've got to say, I think this update's been their best to date. I think they brought a lot of really good stuff forward. The ship rebalance, the event store, all the things that we've discussed. But the one thing that kind of fails every time is when they mention community. And the first thing to me in community has to be better communication. Whether that's when we have a problem or in what they're going to be doing, they just seem to not be as honest about the way and the direction they're going as they could be. And if you want to build a sense of community, I think that's key. You've got to start telling people and explaining to people and give them somebody to speak to. And that's just not happening.
And it's a safe bet, Relentless, right? It's a safe bet. You'd mentioned earlier on, right, about I think the previous panel that we talked, I think you mentioned about how it was strange for you to go on to official Discord and there to be no voice channels, for example.
Correct.
Right. Now, Thaler suggested that they might be listening to the content that we're doing. It wouldn't surprise me if somebody somewhere is listening, right? How influential we are, well, that remains to be seen, but certainly a lot of the stuff that we have talked about is reflected in the community, so they might have picked up their recent survey questions from other sources as well, so we'd not claim entire credit for that, but somebody might be listening, right? And we just, I suppose, I want to explain to them how this works, right? So if I'm an inconvenience and what we're saying is frustrating anybody in any way, or people are listening and going, you're just a crowd of whingers, You know,
Yes,
it's because in Scotland and in Ireland you've got rain all of the time and you're always just giving out about stuff. You know what I mean? There are people, you know what I mean. Like,
yes,
you're just a crowd.
Yes.
You're just a crowd of whingers, right? And you're giving out, and you're trying to add in the positivity. And I agree completely. This up. I don't know if it's their best, but it's brought good things, right?
Yes.
It would be safe to say though, instead of Relentless and Big Balls and anybody else coming onto Amorgin's channel and having their whinge here, and then it going out on YouTube as content where people might be influenced by this or might engage even further. They might be energized and come out with their opinions and stuff like that, right? This is how these things grow. It would be safe to say if that community element where they engage more directly, more efficiently, and are willing to go into voice channel, do live customer support, meet us where we are, and deal with us on a personal level, it'd be safe to say that you and Big Balls and others might not be turning up on Amorgin's channel saying the things you're saying because you would have been dealing with somebody who had dealt with your concerns.
Yes, and answered a question, because I'll give you a great example of that, and that has been in War Robots by Pixonic. That was a game that really boomed a few years ago and became very, very popular, but suffered as they brought out more content, lost a lot of players. I think they made a few strategic kind of errors. But a couple of years ago, they have their own Discord channel, and they took on one of the content creators called Manny Gaming, a German, very well spoken in English and German guy, very big on YouTube now. And he sits in their Discord channel, and when you go in to talk to somebody, he'll actually come on and speak to you. And if you've got a relevant question or anything like that, or you're having a problem, you can go in and speak to him. And like I said, as we've discussed before, it might not be the answer that you want it to be, but he gives you an answer, and you've got to accept that. And don't get me wrong, it's really reinvigorated that game, and it's brought that game really back to life and given it more of a sense of the community. And I think, although the game's lost in a lot, it's kind of how it's played, its own mechanics, it's actually gained a lot of following just because it's built such a very strong community feeling. And you go into their Discord, it's a very open and friendly place. There's always somebody there. They have chat channels for guys, and you can go in and talk to other players and find out how they're playing. But at the same time, you can go into a technical chat, and you can ask an admin or somebody in there, or Manny himself, and he will give you an answer. And that is really, to me, the key to a better community. And Scopely are very close to it, but I think they need to take that step and give the players a conduit to really discuss matters with them and to find out what's going on. Not necessarily what's happening next, because obviously they don't want to lay all their cards out too quickly, but they could be a wee bit more open in their answers.
So there you have it, guys. That conversation went on for a fair while longer than I've been able to show you there. I edited it down quite a bit, and I might be able to take wee excerpts out of that and put it into another video for you guys. Certainly the stuff that we talked about around Server 145 and customer service. So that's the end of another community panel, guys. Like and subscribe and hit the bell and all of that if you liked it. Leave your comments below as always, and come and join us in Discord and keep the conversation going. And until the next time, take care of yourselves and take care of each other, and I'll catch you all again very soon. Cheers.